Tasila Lungu breaks silence, I will defend my Chawama seat. Zambian politics 2026. Today, one of Zambia's most controversial young political figures has drawn her battle lines. Tasila Lungu, daughter of the late former President Edgar Lungu, has declared she will fight for her Chawama parliamentary seat, no matter the opposition, no matter the pressure, and no matter the political storm surrounding her family. But what does this declaration really mean? Why now, and why Chawama? And what political forces are moving quietly behind this dramatic announcement? This story goes far beyond Tasila herself. It touches on the future of the PF, the 2026 election battlefields, and the legacy wars linked to the Lungu family. Let's break it down. Good day, viewers. Welcome to another edition of InspirAfrica Official. I'm Nakash, and it's been quite a week here in the studio as we've been following developments that have shaken the foundations of Zambian parliamentary democracy. Today, we bring you a story that sits at the explosive intersection of grief, power, and constitutional crisis. Imagine this: you're mourning the death of your father, a former president of your nation, but that very grief becomes a weapon wielded against you in the halls of power. Your absence, born from tragedy and complicated by international legal battles over your father's burial, transforms into grounds for your political execution. The parliamentary seat you fought for, won, and served in for years suddenly declared vacant while you stand thousands of kilometers away, fighting not just for the right to bury your father with dignity, but now for your very political survival. What happens when personal tragedy collides with political ambition? When does compassion end and constitutional duty begin? Can a daughter be forced to choose between mourning her father and keeping her seat in parliament? And when the body of a former president remains unburied 6 months after death, caught in a bitter legal dispute between family and state, who truly pays the price? Is this justice served in the name of constituency representation, or is it something far more calculated? A political maneuver disguised as procedure? Is Tasila Lungu a victim of circumstance or an MP who abandoned her constitutional responsibilities? And as Zambia hurtles toward the 2026 general elections, what does this extraordinary case reveal about the ruthlessness of political power, the weaponization of parliamentary rules, and the price one family continues to pay long after leaving State House? These are the questions that grip Zambia today as Tasila Lungu, daughter of the late President Edgar Lungu, breaks her silence with a defiant message: I will fight for my Chawama parliamentary seat. Factual foundation, background and timeline. The revelation came to light on Thursday afternoon when Speaker of the National Assembly, Nelly Muti, made the stunning announcement that would reverberate across Zambian politics. In accordance with standing orders and the Constitution, the Chawama constituency seat was declared vacant during the parliamentary sitting, bringing to an end months of speculation and public debate that had gripped the nation since June. The timeline of this constitutional crisis begins on June 5, 2025, when former President Edgar Lungu died at the age of 68 in South Africa, where he had been seeking medical treatment. His daughter, Tasila Lungu, the sitting member of parliament for Chawama constituency in Lusaka, immediately traveled to South Africa to be with her family during this devastating period. But what should have been a straightforward period of mourning quickly morphed into something far more complex. A bitter legal dispute erupted between the Lungu family and President Hakainde Hichilema's government over the repatriation of the former president's body. The government insisted that President Hichilema, as head of state, must be able to attend the funeral. The Lungu family, however, had other wishes entirely, and the matter ended up in a Pretoria court. In August 2025, a South African court sided with the Zambian government's position. But the Lungu family says the deceased gave instructions that the president should not be anywhere near his body. Tasila Lungu remained in South Africa, attending court proceedings to challenge this ruling. Back in Zambia, Parliament had initially shown compassion. Speaker Nelly Muti granted Tasila Lungu 14 days of compassionate leave to mourn her father, with the expectation that she would return to Parliament when it resumed in September. September came. Parliament reopened its fifth session on September 12, 2025. The 14-day deadline passed. Tasila Lungu did not return. Parliament wrote to the MP again. Instead of resuming her duties, she requested more time until the court case over her father's burial was resolved. The committee had even suggested a compromise, allowing her to represent her Chawama constituency online until her father's burial arrangements were concluded. But Speaker Mudi rejected that proposal, stating that virtual attendance could not replace physical representation. Then came the mounting political pressure. In July, ruling party MP Brian Kambita had questioned the speaker about whether Tasila Lungu was still qualified to hold office because of her prolonged absence. By early November, governance expert Davies Lapinjala was calling for the seat to be declared vacant immediately, arguing that the people of Chawama were being disadvantaged. By November 28, 2025, nearly 6 months after her father's death, Speaker Mudi had run out of patience. The National Assembly had exercised maximum patience and procedural fairness, she declared. The House voted. The majority agreed. The Chawama seat was officially vacant. Direct evidence, quotes and testimony. Within hours of the Parliament's decision, Tasila Lungu released a powerful statement directly to her constituents, her first public address since the controversy began to reach its climax. In a Facebook message that would quickly go viral across Zambian social media, she wrote, "Dear Chawama family, I am sure by now you have seen the news reports that our Chawama MP seat has been declared vacant circulating widely. We have made every effort to represent you, including virtually, during this deeply painful mourning period as we have not yet laid Dad, HE President Edgar Chagwa Lungu to rest." She thanked her team of councillors, community members, and constituency staff who had continued working in her absence. Then came the defiant promise that has become the rallying cry for her supporters. "Take heart, we are going to fight to keep our Chawama family strong and united. Let us remember that we continued working even as we faced a very challenging election petition for the same seat at the beginning of my term in 2021, which we overcame by the grace of God in all your efforts. That's Ubuntu, where there is a will there is always a way. We shall never lose hope." The message was clear. Tasila Lungu was not accepting this decision quietly. She was preparing to fight. But the voices in this drama extend far beyond the embattled MP herself. The decision to declare her seat vacant has divided Zambia, creating fault lines that reveal deeper tensions in the nation's political landscape. Opposition Member of Parliament Brian Mundable expressed what many felt was the absurdity of the timing. He questioned the logic of holding a by-election just months before Parliament dissolves. "It costs poor taxpayers about $30 million to conduct a parliamentary election," Mundable lamented. "Where will the money come from when government cannot buy drugs in hospitals, pay farmers for the maize they sold to FRA, or import electricity?" On the streets of Chawama itself, residents were split. Some felt abandoned. "We sympathize with her situation, but we also need a functioning representative. Life has to go on," said one market trader in John Howard. Others saw only cruelty in the decision. She was grieving her father under complicated circumstances. "The government should have been more flexible," said another resident who declined to be named, perhaps fearing political repercussions for defending a member of the opposition. Independent MP Binwal Pandu went further, accusing the government of hypocrisy, saying it was wrong for them to claim solidarity with the Lungu family while simultaneously stripping the daughter of her parliamentary seat. Meanwhile, governance expert Davies Lapinjala had taken a harder line weeks earlier, calling for immediate action. He argued that the Lungu family had politicized the funeral at the expense of national interest, leaving Chawama without effective representation and development projects stalled. But perhaps most telling was the legal opinion offered by FIRA Member of Parliament Emmanuel Tembo, who argued that Parliamentary Standing Order 223, adopted in 2024, does not provide for a parliamentary seat to be declared vacant due to absenteeism, but instead allows for an MP to be suspended for periods ranging from 7 to 30 days. If Tembo is correct, then the Speaker's decision may itself be constitutionally questionable, a procedural overreach that could be challenged in court. Deeper analysis. This case transcends the fate of one MP and one constituency. It strikes at fundamental questions about parliamentary procedure, compassion in governance, and the lingering shadow of Zambia's recent political transition. First, there's the procedural question. Can absence due to extraordinary personal circumstances, particularly when an MP has been actively engaged in legal proceedings related to a former head of state's burial, constitute grounds for declaring a seat vacant? The parliamentary standing orders are being tested in unprecedented ways. The constitutional implications are profound. If an MP can lose their seat for extended absence related to family mourning and international legal battles, what precedent does this set? Could future MPs be similarly removed for extended illness? For caring for dying relatives? For responding to personal emergencies? Then there's the timing. Parliament dissolves ahead of the August 2026 general elections. Under Zambian law, a by-election must be held within 90 days of a seat being declared vacant. This means any winner would serve barely a month before the entire parliament dissolves. Is this sound governance or political theater? The financial argument cannot be ignored either. In a nation struggling with electricity imports, drug shortages in hospitals, and unpaid farmers, is spending approximately $30 million on a by-election that will effectively last weeks a responsible use of public funds? But perhaps most significantly, this case reveals the weaponization of procedure in Zambian politics. The Lungu family's relationship with the current administration has been fraught. Edgar Lungu lost the 2021 presidential election to Hakainde Hichilema. Since then, members of the Lungu family have faced corruption investigations, asset forfeitures, and now this parliamentary removal. Critics see a pattern: the systematic dismantling of the Lungu political legacy through legal and procedural means. Supporters of the government argue that rules are rules, and constituency representation cannot be held hostage to personal circumstances, no matter how sympathetic. The burial dispute itself is extraordinary. 6 months after Edgar Lungu's death, his body remains in South Africa, caught in a legal battle over whether the current president can attend the funeral. This is not merely a family disagreement, it reflects the deep animosity between the Lungu family and the current administration. For the people of Chawama, this means uncertainty. Ward development committees and local administrative structures will manage constituency affairs in the interim, but these are not elected representatives. The constituency, a competitive political battleground in Lusaka, now faces the prospect of a rushed by-election followed almost immediately by a general election. Political analysts suggest that whoever wins the Chawama by-election will have an advantage heading into the 2026 general elections, having just secured name recognition and campaign infrastructure. This makes the seat extraordinarily valuable despite its short tenure. For Tasila Lungu herself, the question is whether she can mount a legal challenge to the speaker's decision while simultaneously preparing for a possible by-election campaign. Her statement suggests she intends to fight on both fronts. The ambiguities are many. Can the speaker's decision be appealed? On what legal grounds? Will Tasila Lungu return to Zambia to campaign while her father's body remains unburied? Will the Patriotic Front support her candidacy or field a different candidate? And ultimately, will the voters of Chawama see her as a victim of political persecution or an MP who abandoned her responsibilities? These questions connect to larger systemic concerns about the health of Zambian democracy. When personal tragedy becomes political opportunity, when grief is measured against constitutional duty with stopwatch precision, when the burial of a former president becomes a tool in contemporary political battles, what does this say about the state of the nation? Thank you for watching another edition of InspirAfrica Official. The story of Tasila Lungu and the Chawama seat is far from over. In fact, it may only be beginning. As we've seen today, this case raises profound questions about the intersection of personal tragedy and political responsibility, about the weaponization of parliamentary procedure, and about how far a nation should go in enforcing rules when human compassion might suggest patience. We want to hear from you. What do you think? Should Tasila Lungu have been given more time to mourn her father and resolve the burial dispute? Or did she abandon her constitutional duty to the people of Chawama? Is this political persecution or legitimate enforcement of parliamentary rules? And what does this case reveal about the state of Zambian democracy as we head toward the 2026 elections? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. Let's have a respectful but honest conversation about these critical issues facing our nation. We'll be following this story closely as it develops. Will Tasila Lungu mount a legal challenge? Will she campaign in the by-election? Will Edgar Lungu finally be buried, bringing closure to this extraordinary chapter? We'll bring you those answers and more in the days and weeks ahead. Until then, this is Nakash reminding you to stay informed, stay engaged, and stay inspired. I'll see you tomorrow with more news that matters.